the fact defend forward, reduce magnitude effects and militia behavior, recognizing possible software use returns while being able to deploy cables well. Armed attack, clarifying threshold is key, but it's key in 60. We have to get education and discussion what we need force regarding action, kinetic parallels, even cyber action, creative restrictions. That's all. It's forcing the law analysis on cyber operation below armed attack when undesigned force unnecessary authorization, ambiguous definitions will lead to lack of understanding, excessive disconnect definition, cause confusion, which creates problems. Trying to define a cyber operation, none of our helpful determining our cyber armed attack. The effective use of offensive operation, key to prevent Russian info warfare. Jones in 18 Russia will target use until the use implements offensive information war campaign goes to be course Russian curve information war exploit vulnerable use develop offensive capabilities and use them necessary change means little use fields of friendly use cyber attacks of friendly damage to make someone yield Moscow use city use not prepared to use cyber operation cyber enable info warfare existential threat lane 19 the human requires the courage to global information ecosystem by having magnified war escalated nuclear exchange to information ecosystem made rational response to difficult country difficult cyber neighbor information warfare multiply cyber enable information warfare has become existential threat use of hosting the possibility of global information dystopia because people depend on infrastructure for necessity nuclear war climate change putting humanity risk infrastructure increasing virtual information ecosystem critical model stage information nature required good information required for national security and education of our nation information and 115 human beings depend on information for formed decisions making decisions but accountability of information result could be life for nation could be big attitude about war food production energy and many other important matters corruption for information extended because prosperity depends on the secure information infrastructure advantage two is international law. Clarifying a higher threshold for armed attack prevents states from using force and self-defense for any incursion of absent that World War III blanket 20 the U.S. Act must be gravity cause armed attack and for some examples cyber means can cause armed attack sufficient destruction of property purpose official government regularly use of force framing legend force neutral national power high threshold armed attack is grounds of force to be last resort limited exception for force and a high threshold limited circumstances for destroying feasibility by boarding rapid unstoppable cycle of force and counter force explosion a small incident of definition armed attack protecting escalation small incident of full scale conflagration if the force of permissible mind provocation of any countermeasure soon but will face major catastrophe of the Third World War. The alternatives are return to pre-charter era unilaterally settling disputes by force, extinction, Charman, then it's age of need for space international order has never been good to settle differences by unilateral use of force with returning humans about did a tendency to act into disregarding obligation has been intention approach that classifies international disposal of this until serious every world will last back in deciding where conflicts resolve by unilateral use of forces and the path cause major conflict behavior. Puts the world at respect goes a big step further prevent expansive self-defense, destabilizes every nuclear dyad, triggers global proliferation. Kelly and three left on challenge American Jewish Article 51 broadens and permissive. The world does not condemn its state act in accordance with its state practice and conditions, but customary rules finding ways that you uncharted that is what it regress progress to possibility dangers are returning to pre-1945 rules against nuclear weapons and manifold legal exchange on use of force by nuclear capacity will be sold to countries would be encouraged to proceed quickly inquiring on proliferation with evaporate. No cyber distinction exists now, so spill over to effects kinetic warfare threats. Hines and 88 relax interpretation, law and armed proposal lowering bar for lawful use of force, increased confidence use of force with non-distinction between cyber and kinetic operation and whatever can global cyber also holds kinetic means safe aim for right to force and situation prohibited. Kinetic use are more prone to retaliation and escalation for more activity and becomes more morally effect how states interpret obligation. Current strategy does not comply with obligation. It makes forceful parcels likely, drawing a distinction solves that jurisdiction in 18th duty man was not comply with international legal obligation. U.S. policy must comport to legal notes. U.S. must take effective measures to restrict actions and inherent right to self-defense and administration based on legal territories. Great leaders elective use commit forceful parcel use to promote clarification. U.S. involved accusation of non-compliance. Then you will pose a problem regarding compliance policy should be clarified and comply. And the U.S. refusal to draw a line of cyber crimes flagrantly repudiates whatever that is. It presumes that legally we are already fighting a war that collapses of two regimes together, getting the benefits of both two chicken, 18 non-distinction, rightly proportionality, but man completes ad element in bello conducts are also the manual only pays normal credence separation internal limit of response and universal distinction addresses only in bello the ICL reinforces the presumption from escalated ad bellum overly present duty manual and capital series of likely effective expected red could be use virtual carrying armed attack over inclusive span of violence ad bellum proportionality should be used according to duty manual disparity should violate ad bellum nothing of the manual include the response to action low level cyber attack market cyber attack setting appropriate threshold key to prevent forceful reprisals and normalize use of force. Amendment 21 the U.S. phase a pivotal moment in the establishment of force measures cyber capable cyber is not well developed use is not participate it will lose ability to shape norms state interpretation orders action interpretation appropriate mechanism for evolution international law the threshold which is cyber master use of force but remains also ambiguity this seems because never aggressive nor no word red line is a serious cyber should be considered as accessibility. The U.S. might not want to declare the country must lay what consider exceeding threshold establishment appropriate threshold appropriate does not hamper use espionage U.S. must be consistent with admission needs to determine response to establish deterrence and impose cost plan. The United States government should limit the activation of Article 5 to a North Atlantic Treaty of the condition of cyber operation not so constantly the most grave forms of use of force. Candidate 3 solvency red lines are key as Watkins and 17 the questions are contested view should next leadership and advanced interpretation and point of view is refined position establish influence opinions and various costs are made a cyber red lines agreement is speed of decision making and the basis for cooperation. The cyber does not right to views to have a broad option of menus options for responding cyber does cause threshold trigger even wider set that similar questions rights interpreting mutual defense against treaty extension North Atlantic Treaty commitments and my invoking cyberspace that U.S. approach not satisfactory leaves a lot of gray areas that might be useful to draw a sharper red lines. Direct state action is key and solves Division 17 efforts does not achieve greater to shrink rate to North South is likely given a slow pace of progress in most law force. It would likely be left to address through opinion viewers with a statement on the legal issues. The statements will clarify on issue 2. Reason would be narrow third opinion viewers that serves as interpretive function. Expression contribute to interpretation ambiguity perversions as seen as such as meaning of armed attacks, cyber attacks that failed to mean planned threshold would have to response downshifted to Article 4 rights. Lewis and 13 that there would be the agreement on threshold for the trigger collective self-defense professionally be very heavy gray area. The NATO members prefer to use Article 4 for cyber. Article 4 commits some members will decide whether our incident was armed attack. The development of cyber state military activity is daily incident are unlikely to be determined, makes it defining central since the armed attack which triggers collective self-defense. Defining will qualify as a foundation of low cyber attacks fall well below this threshold. Other countries are lawful and applicable. Countermeasures are lawful and applicable that seeks and 20 countermeasures offered a way to respond to overall countermeasures address the to be the goal is a problem the state to seize a violation and can help humanity violations for the states can de-escalate dispute countermeasures that play gore armed attack must always treated as high remedy interstate activity for fall below fragile violent international warrant responses.
Okay, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, I first just want to talk about the plan text. So it's sort of, just to be clear, it only activates, like, what is most grave forms of use of force, right?
I think Bernie
just like when self-defense.
Yeah. So most grave forms of use.
I can't hear anything like at all.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Might want to mute. Yeah, there.
Okay, sorry. The language of most grave forms of use of force is sort of echoes the language used by the ICJ in the Nicaragua decision. So that's the threshold that the plan would adopt.
So in the Nicaragua decision, which specifically is just the United States cannot sort of like launch a nuke or try to defend Japan if Japan rejects, right? Like if Japan does not want that self-defense.
No, that's another part of the Nicaragua decision. Nicaragua, said a few things. It says that the U.S., it says that states must request assistance and declare an armed attack before collective self-defense can happen. But it also defines armed attack as the most grave forms of use of force, which sort of excludes lower level operations.
You see the problem, right? Like you're saying grave use of force, but then referring me back to the first part of the Nicaragua decision. What is grave use of force if it's not this part of the Nicaragua decision?
Sure. So right. No, those are totally different things. One is for when collective self-defense can be triggered. The other part of the Nicaragua decision has to do with a definition of armed attack. A definition based on the most grave forms of use of force is a relatively flexible definition, but it excludes lower level incursions that wouldn't result in damage to.
It's like a word salad to me.
Our evidence gives the example of kinetic retaliation, someone being killed, property damage, etc. to a certain point.
So we will respond to that. Will we respond? Okay, I'm just going to throw scenarios at you. Like people die in a cyber attack.
I'm not a cyber.
Yes, we'd respond.
I'm not going to give you the playbook for all.
Well, your 2A was giving them to them, so I'm going to
telling you what it excludes, and it excludes.
Okay, I'm going to tune into the other thing because it's way more important. So, specifically, people die in a cyber attack. Is the U.S. responding?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm getting the gist of this. In terms of sort of your spillover claim about self-defense, but you in the Carson evidence, it talks specifically about how the United States cannot just keep violating Article 51 and defending allies when they don't want that. How do you solve that? Do you solve that?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, the Kelly 3 evidence specifically says that we need to stop sort of the American interpretation of Article 51 that broadens permissiveness and sort of means that they can defend any party, any country, regardless of if that party invokes collective self-defense.
Right. So the Kelly card is sort of actually about the US's violation of Article 51 insofar as we think there does not exist a gap between use of force and armed attack, which is what the plan reinterprets. So we do solve that.
You have anything, this card is not highlighted to say that, but you've also tagged it to be the opposite. So are you sure about that?
The card says it's about unilateral uses of force. The whole point of what armed attack is in terms of threshold to when that's applicable. You don't.
Oh, very good.
Okay, the 1 and C is being sent now. It's 7 off, advantage 1, advantage 2. Okay, is anyone not ready? Okay, everyone's good. Okay, great. First off, substantial substantially limits all possible uses. Women and five other regulations substantially limit is not the act is not for legal means leave women's alternative future accordingly the act is not substantially limit voting for limits in ground allowing any small alteration in the defense package so the number of cases makes egg preparation possible by incentivizing conditions of the weak ass and makes assessing court egg dead set ground impossible because it evades a fundamental question in the literature about whether the packs are good or bad. Next, response side counterpoint, the United States Congress should publicize the introduction of force hostilities and the condition of cyber operation that's constituting the most grave forms of the use of force is not authorizing the United States Supreme Court should not grant certain challenges that competes the counterpoint changes required action, not conditions under which action is required, leads in 7 different alliance obligations or actions members are taking even if all the conditions under which are required to act solves the case and ends president taking authority from treaties. Section 97. The president regards security treaties authority the problem of any constitutional process treaty for its member states exercise collective self-defense necessary treaties not require response to maintains right decided does not mean that automatically war Congress has alone has the part of public and ask whether the treaty will lead to automatic war unequivocally no key to congressional war powers must under the president's international authority. Section 97 striking transformation of war powers presidency authority from national institutions violates constitution legislative intent represent ever through treaty process of constitutional role transmitted and interruption from Congress Korea Iraq Haiti and Bosnia Herzegovina Congress fit each build a stronger base for action legal unconstitutional democratic autocracy, extinction, Sloan, and 8 scope of executive power, exert permanent effect law because of system president strongly influence other states, many states have no way, which asserted right to prevent war states have a comparable right and include North Korea, Iran, China, India, Iran, Israel, Russia, and Taiwan, Taiwan, each other use to emerge other practice other states, acute sensitivity to assertion power practice initiated by executive shape and law states, use of catastrophic violence, deterioration of human rights, and trophy is power. Next, deterrence counterpoint the United States federal government should encourage the North Atlantic Treaty Organization to establish a cyber early warning system, increase cyber deterrence right now, encourage cyber information sharing within the alliance, and counterpoint solves the case and provides unanimous for deterrence and assurance and plan and permutation to destroy the signal by durably binding NATO policy of ambiguity is key. Jones and 15 NATO should establish early witnesses and let the alliance know when an attack is happening. Stop it. It focuses on not only encouraging sharing and maintaining ambiguity on Article 9 to just warning when an attack is happening and make it possible for leaders to active Article 5 determine cyber attacks not required action 20 separate defense and increase and data about deterrence deployment measures to preventative action information sharing with official NATO needs experts see the ambiguity of Article 5 ambiguity sharing NATO will threshold and unnecessary alliance set weapons and guns but it would have a threshold price preclude NATO response missile or can ambiguity threshold allow alliance to act in future attack but also turn from overacting missiles to state to set a threshold for attacks that cannot be anticipated. It's important to have a general belief but not through policy to ensure proper consideration. Article is an article in which the entire alliance and cyber would be too new for NATO to bind its hands with rigid laws regarding how and why it would invoke Article 5. Next, Article 5 pick the United States federal government should establish an array of proportionate graduated response measures to respond to any armed attack on cyber operations. New actions by no solvency advocate Taiwan. CSD dissad China's deterred from military crisis in Taiwan due to U.S. protection status in 21 crisis could erupt across Taiwan as the United States remains availability application leadership damage credibility in China to be more aggressive all education supported by strengthening Washington. Taiwan's needs of Beijing's dominated regional order Chinese control Taiwan with East Beijing's protecting naval power weak the U.S. President PLA would support extension through a conceding Kaku give Beijing leverage into crisis PLA could develop the Philippines control change the Beijing's SCS and extended anti-axis plans adherence to CSD law collapses Taiwan deterrence and cause a great power war via China SOISQ and 20 prohibitive forces and self-defense strict adherence will encourage force by China against Taiwan discouraging United States running to promote military action. China remains prepared because no state recognizes Taiwan international legality by dead in the evolving concept of CSD effective international legal base of the United States numbers so the legally rape CSD reveals paradox Taiwan is a strong means to formalize independence because this is formalized independence for Chinese invasion makes conflict more likely. CSD means to decide to violate the law to defend Taiwan war over Taiwan cause extinction Tama Jin 18 the most worst and last for Taiwan that leader China want to attack like harbors or bomb an island conventional offset threat Chinese nuclear capabilities Navy threaten new subs any campaign by Chinese nuclear forces degrade these would be impossible to Chinese nuclear forces unscathed NCSC wartime developments assumptions Beijing might see limited nuclear escalation and conflict China would use nuclear to destroy bases to signal red line China SOA sets a precedent extinction Bonner and 20 Iran China and Russia seek to consolidate power of new territory and imperial of NATO critical partners Iran claims Strait of Hormuz and put a total base measure where Saudi Iran close would not have the hesitation interruption of oil and gas imports with a significant impact on global economy the full of trading conflict China may redefine fair time freedom that cascading effects of critical stocks would be severe as Iran press their own revisionist interpretations. Next Hong Kong United States through a limited constitutional convention called for by at least 34 of the states and ratified by at least 30 of the states to limit the article activation of Article of the North Atlantic Treaty and condition of cyber operations not constituting the most grave forms of the use of force selves and ways politics holding it 18 bypass Congress 34 states and amendments limited specific issues. Next infrastructure will pass now Biden's PC Key Hagen and 323 Biden's secretary delivers Bush's infrastructure trip. Additional elements of infrastructure plan place some of her support Biden went with moderate GOP senators parties poised to use reconciliation if needed. We're united on a big bold package. Schumer said Biden will need to perform a delicate balancing act to obtain bipartisan compromise. Manchin said he would push for Republicans to have a role in limiting defense pacts, cost political capital wrap upper in 17 renegotiations take years to puzzle keep secret other branches of possible opposite parties and even push critics to the slunch troops in Stoco prompted backlash and derailed Nixon promised would end the alliance with Taiwan Congress today past CRA alliance long standing partners of a robust size of legislators alliance to reach challenges of greater friendship at the border 20% and fighting Biden's infrastructure bill solves warming brought up in 315 2018, Biden's multi-trillion dollar plan to rebuild infrastructure goes far beyond words of resist pressure, innovative climate, energy, climate change, bold faces against the climate change, hammering strong market forces, deliver transition without government intervention measures. The climate policy about how rapid administrations, how it brings down costs of clean tech needed for world to rest the world decarbonize, increasing clean energy and developing by the accelerate innovation and infrastructure investment, streamlining and permitted boost demand by bringing these costs down through the government investments, watching the accelerated deployment of developing countries, warming causes station curve and 18 climate change acidification because of positive feedback loops and rise climate and acidification directly connected to food and water shortages create conflict, climate change, but yeah, exacerbate water scarcity essential for human survival. Humans adapted climate is rife with positive feedback loops, warming causes more CO2, real forest fires become more frequent, catastrophic fire crash, humanity off guard produces apocalyptic event, runaway climate change portends existential risk. Advantage 1, legal red lines ensure massive cyber attacks. Scam and 16 need to policy and cyber big strategic to good if legal rules undefined efforts NATO room to operate time is critical data public cyber lines and affordable cyber offenders for best interest and spoilers threshold nefarious actors surprise to detest NATO resolve damage reputation and American belief article of commence the plan collapses the alliance and green lights Russian sphere of influence August 17 Russia vicious project states with this threat deterrence top priority West leadership that persevere influence cyber tactics for structured Europe propaganda intimidation and cyber warfare for the allies with the to proximity with NATO needs to demonstrate political solidarity probing gauge NATO commitment to US countering that power and we will back it up exposing alliances built in fear of any US and Russia's immediate hinder relationships with Moscow for probing the success of Russia's cyber sphere of influence ensures massive information campaigns that disintegrate the global liberal order kicking it all in 19 Putin is trying to interfere the ability of people to choose their leader for lead under many rosely in our shoulder American prosperity security prosperity and normalization Putin's actions over time by others generally behavior negotiations in the White House war on the truth of left and trying to make civil question possible the aspect of it 6 years back Russia started to pose the survival of the American public NATO cohesion solves the litany of existential risk calendar and Duke 19 America's alliances provides US competitive evidence with regard to Beijing Moscow terrorism Beijing Moscow terrorism started texting loads what it is studied less for cooperation to keep competitive Beijing records Russian Chinese influence like Argentina with America was rather advantages on the price of Europe negative implications to China disagree signal the US is unreliable alliances in the Pacific will need to architecture military advantages shifting against the US and effective deterrence solves the case plugged in and 20 potential damage via cyber attacks taken as a radical barrier to effective deterrence assumption is misguided political interest being advanced the identity of aggressor clear the origin of attack and can be traced by technical means of reservations over strategic attribution to overwhelming conflict to different interests coercion is not possible without identity interest advance Russia for example need not to identify which specific NATO country to hold at risk interest shared by all members possible to retaliate no widespread grid blackouts Corthan 18 cyber attacks like the grid does not work the way that infrastructure clog followed by redundancies and regional variation then paid widespread sabotage to have not been stable attacks we difficult to attack wide scale blackouts even if hackers do not eventually succeed North American grid of patchwork of unconnected islands to take down one utility and going right for the next one the extremely difficult grid already contains a lot of redundancies hackers and have control over the things to get it back out scenarios would sound like they should lead to major blackouts having Department of Energy figuring reboot after blackout the grid is strong now Schallenberg and 17 more efficient technology, specifically energy efficiency combined with that cycle generation has changed powerful powers which reduce the electrical transmission, the reduction in solar focus to be shifted to resolving aging infrastructure, more efficient technologies, capital capacity for more upgrades to make grid increasingly robust and resilient, PGM and abandoned without evoking energy procedures, no grid impact, Freeberg and Ford, Teen Singer and Freeman beating the hype of cyber for Hallberg, US efficient capital saw dollars to Tesla much statistics together from a variety of firewall to the loss of systemics of 35 trivial to significant losses and the numbers materials bonding the hackers should then eligible grid for weeks away based on nuclear explosions, worlds taking down the power grid more than zero times and hackers have a true cyber offensive spelling difference. Their evidence is about the US failing to respond to a Microsoft attack, not NATO guidelines. Advantage 2. Their evidence says that conflict would exist, not that it escalates. Same with their last impact. It says it's destabilizing, not that it causes nuclear war. The plan solves nothing. Article 5 doesn't cover non-state actor attacks. Article 16. NATO consider terrorism to be a threat alliance, but shows that threat represents a constitute terrorism, striking NATO and population on the risk have escalated Al-Qaeda and Islamic State tendencies towards unwillingness to respond to political solutions. They adopt a counter stance. They use military and directly. Many commentators often note Article 5 common misunderstanding meaning utility of this provision. North Atlantic Treaty also alone confers no authority international law to undertake an armed forces act or use of force attack in state or international non-state actor. Every member state will take action regardless of NATO, which means they don't solve Bamberg and in 19 NATO countries have limited resources. Many states are involved in operations combating terrorism. France terrorist attacks had to deprioritize other initiatives. Italy prioritized European security and military spending, similar in Spain after Al-Qaeda bombers. And then back to advantage 1. Information warfare is not existential. Lewis and 20 there have never been a catastrophic cyber attack. Two massive multiple targets would have to be hit simultaneously. It's easier to imagine catastrophic catastrophe than produce it. There are powerful countries who could be launch attacks on state actors. Most faculty fallacy to launch attacks that cause legal damage and global. There is not concerned about potential attack with the US and distribute the way they're unwilling to massive retaliation. Attackers need to avoid actions that could risk retaliation. Neither Russia nor China would have been well served by a similar attack on the US. One major falling of catastrophe scenarios is they discount the robustness and resilience of modern economies. Good for cross-sex.
Okay, first status of everything.
Conditional status
sorry.
is always an option.
Can someone? I'm echoing.
I can hear you just fine.
I'm having a tech issue. Give me a second.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, sorry, I fixed it. You good?
Yeah.
Status of everything.
Conditional status quo is always a logical option.
Cool. The response type counterplan.
Yeah.
So what does the introduction of forces into hostilities mean?
The introduction of like troops or like nuclear assets in response. It's like what the US, it's like what would normally be triggered if
So
US are
troops or
bad.
nuclear assets, does that cover things like US hackbacks?
Yes.
So
Like everything the US would do in response to Article 5 being called,
okay,
those are
that
like
makes
forces
sense.
into hostilities for the text.
The deterrence counterplan.
Yeah.
Like establishment of a like what internal links is this proposed to solve, I guess, first of all?
It's supposed to support all of the internal links and provide uniqueness for the deterrence advantage in the turn.
Okay,
Like
so
advantage one, I don't remember the name of it.
gotcha. Does it propose to solve anything about advantage 2?
No.
Cool. The Taiwan CST disad.
Yeah.
What is the link to the AF?
Advantage 2. We have conceded link to advantage 2 because we agree that the AF would adopt if you want to explain more.
The Kelly evidence specifically says that it sort of reinforces it is a further expansion than self-defense. Even though you won't defend it, your evidence certainly does, and so does your solvency evidence. It says that states.
It says
I'm pretty certain about this. It specifically talks about the fact that sort of this is left unchallenged now. The United States is allowed to sort of pursue its self-defense actions, but reinterpretation of Article 51, even in the context of the act, closes the permissiveness that we've allowed the United States to use to include its
Gotcha. Okay.
and reinscribe
Cool.
them.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. What about Article 51 allows us to intervene in Taiwan now?
The argument would be that the United States is not sort of tying itself down to Article 51 or collective self-defense, and that is why they are able to defend Taiwan. The reason is that collective self-defense and the law that the affirmative reinscribes calls for us.
So is your argument is that either China will invade Taiwan or Taiwan will declare independence because they feel that the international law is.
You're going to get confused about this. Like the scenario is this: what the plan causes is this perception that now we have to consult China before we invade Taiwan.
Why do we have to consult China before we invade Taiwan?
Article 51 in the collective self-defense doctrine says that we must consult the state, and since Taiwan is a territory, we must.
Okay, so again, I'm asking about your internal link.
Also,
so
importantly,
Taiwan.
Your internal links to your like second scenario.
But like, how does the war occur? How does the conflict occur? Like, what is the scenario for why a conflict occurs?
You now let me get to that. So Taiwan declares independence. That immediately.
Why do they? Wait. What card do you have that says they're declaring independence now?
All of the we're obviously not defending they're declaring independence now. That would mean there's no uniqueness for our disad. Our argument is that the plan causes them to declare independence,
which is essentially what Davis said.
Okay.
Because they know they're going to be invaded regardless. They rather take their chances with U.S. defense than nothing.
They know they're going to be invaded. That seems like a big assertion, but.
I mean, answer the disad and we can talk about it in the block.
We will. 10 minutes. 650. So. Sorry, is everyone good for an order? Cool. It's the cyber advantage, the international law advantage, T substantial, the Article 5 pick, the response type counterplan, the deterrence counterplan, the con-con counterplan, the Taiwan disad, and then the infrastructure disad.
Are you still downloading for not good yet?
Oh,
That
you're
was
good.
gonna be We're good.
Okay, you're good? Sick. Awesome. Unless anyone verbally interjects, I'm going to start in a few seconds. Gnarly. The Cyber Advantage Group 1 and C, Group 1 and C 1 through 5. The status quo disproves claims about ambiguity. Russian cyber attacks are increasing in number and complexity now because Russia doesn't believe the US will respond because of ambiguity. That's 20C Rondo and Cunningham. Link journey. The alpha prevents conflict at the highest levels. Clarity means adversaries know to retaliate, which discourages aggression. That's 20C Waxman and Schmidt 20. So the solar ones highlights the Russian conducting operation the coast and maximize effect, minimize risk. The best approach is the individually set forth interpretive position with the browser areas that often gets hinder the effort of adversaries to exploit ambiguity. B. The F also prevents lower level conflict. Only an active end strategy solves aggression by stopping adversaries from successfully completing operation. That's 20C Solmeyer. And no link A. Ambiguous commitments to use full force are incredible because adversaries don't believe we'll reciprocate retaliating. P. The ask skills and effects solves and maintains some flexibility means some things are clearly in, some things are clearly out, and we have appropriate flexibility in between. Homework 15. Most comments the consequence based approach whether cyber operation constitutes and attack advance and skills effects on the consequence clearly reach up in the threshold, namely further injures or kills damage or destroys. Some for qualified consequences until the experts do not agree about the P represent. If there's convincing evidence in small scale, cyber incidents of the requisite skill advanced armed attack. No cohesion, no internal risks are going back or at all 20. The intent of sheer exacerbated internal risk collective defense well done. The credibility of commitment to Article 5. Attention to resistance eroding alliance and effective from trade to tech under commitment to maintain spending exacerbated by deeper session internal cohesion challenge by members who have departed from democratic consensus about cap under commitment to mutual defense. Now 1 and C 6th grade group down. None of them assume the Denardis card. It's recent. It's from 2 weeks ago and says that increasing interconnection between technology makes grid collapse more likely than ever, especially because Russia already has access to our grids because of SolarWinds, which is none of their evidence assumes and makes collapse uniquely likely and catastrophic because it causes societal collapse. 1 in C9 the Microsoft guideline stuff. There's no impact to this. The app would change how we respond to the Microsoft attack because it revises our definition of armed attack. 1 in C10 the info warfare argument. They read it. Info warfare impact on deterrence, but our evidence is also fantastic here. The 1EC card says that it's a conflict magnifier. It's an impact magnifier that is independently causes conflict because it would ensure societal collapse, which their evidence doesn't assume. The ILAW advantage. 1 and C 1 and 2 group them. Oh, the affirmative is not about collective self-defense or consulting with other countries, which means neither of these things matter. That'll be explained more in the Taiwan disad. 1 and C3. Non-state actors don't matter. This has nothing to do with the affirmative, and if they impact it out in the relation to the F, we get new 1-year answers. 1 and C4. The argument about NATO taking action. Again, this doesn't matter because the US is the only country whose definition doesn't adhere to armed attack. They basically dropped the substance of this advantage, which they have misunderstood. Our argument is that the US's broad definition of armed attack means we could respond to any attack on anyone with a forceful reprisal, which causes a collapse of the international order by justifying the use of forceful reprisals by other country, which ensures proliferation. It's not about collective self-defense, which their evidence doesn't assume. Now go to T substantial 1. We need by reducing the when will trigger an armed attack over cyber, evaluate the plan to next in a vacuum. It's the only objective measure. 2. Counter interpretation substantially limit means significantly restrict. 3. Resisted of Texas 11.
substantial limit, significant restriction of the condition under which individual can perform major activity. 2, 3, we need to interpret significant restriction of the conditions under which the U.S. can have trigger armed attack. 4, preferred A, flex arbitrarily bracketing off after events and events that's uniquely good and already limited topic. B, topic education, kid to learn about core lines. Command. C, every F under their interpret becomes big for the negative, affirming impossible D precision. We had an opportunity to vote for terminate and choose not to pursue arbitrarily constrain the rest to get out of substance. 5, functional limit check solvency advocates like trades returns and insurance help prevent explosion of 6, reasonability goods are good enough in beating interpretation incentivized to raise the bottom cover cards such as substance and cause of judgment convention. The article 5, pick 1, permutation do both. 2, perm to the counterplan is the way the plan can be done. 3, links and benefit unilaterally establishes an article 5 red line for military response with important adversaries freaks at allies. 4, can't solve the cyber advantage. 8, credible deterrence clearly delineating which cyber tax constitutes armed attacks executed credibly impose costs on attacks failing to deter that doesn't solve the 20 Iranian. B, active defense armed attack definitional ambiguity discourages policymakers from engaging in active defense. The counterplan does not alter definitions which can't solve ambiguity. That's 1 AC McGee. 5, it can't solve the ILO advantage. Our entire argument is that because of the US's broad and expansive interpretation of Article 5 that justifies other countries engaging in armed reprisals by not altering their definition, they still set that precedent. 6, picks are a reason to reject the team's CLT average makes generating offense impossible and text clash. Our interpretation of the counterplans must be functionally textually competitive. 7, links and benefit unilaterally establishes the red line for military response which emboldens adversaries and freaks out allies. I'll skip that for now. The response type counterplan. 1, permutation to both. 2, permutation to the counterplans the way the plan to be done. 3, permutation to the plan and the counterplan over other instances. I've included the text, and that's often a benefit, and it's not intrinsic because it does a whole plan and part of the counterplan, i.e. its process, but limited intrinsicness is good. Limits out counterplans that are an opportunity cost the average create stale debates. 4, can't solve any of the plan. We need to reinterpret Article 5 that was impacted out on the Article 5 counterplan. 5, permutation to the plan through the cross the counterplan. 6, links and net benefit harder because the executive has political cover. 7, executive key to clarity solves miscalculus. 13, statement delivered up presidential cabinet secretary reinforcement and have the same effect. Ambiguity in the turn president encourages a miscalculation may lead to serious restriction. Massive caveats of the declarative statement under context turn valid. These caveats detract from the clarity of statement of to easily misinterpret the threat. The 8, the counterplan makes no sense. Congress can't change our treaty commitments. Well, they can't change our treaty commitments, which means the counterplan fails. 9, congressional foreign policy meddling does neither size word. 4, Congress have never won reviewing the executive foreign powers. Congress would put the president in the state dragon authority. The president's congressional foreign policy where an executive can allow request and mobilize the research with the speed, force, spirit, any other branch worth of publicly states imperative attack instantly any nuclear deterrence requires a single person authorization with collapse deterrence making preemptive strikes more likely. 10, process counterplans are a reason to reject the team. Tilting which makes generating offense impossible. 11, conditionality is reason to reject the team. Encourages run gun negative strategies that discourage in-depth research on condo solve their offense. Now go to the deterrence counterplan. 1, permutation to both. 2, permutation to the plan and a combination of planks. 3, can't solve the cyber advantage. 8, credible deterrence. Russia already has access to networks of solar winds. That means we can't deny access, but we can threaten to impose sufficient cost to deter future attacks. That's 20 CL Paravich. B, active defense. Credible deterrence of low-level attacks is impossible because of interest asymmetries, which means an offensive strategy is key. That's 20 C Solmeyer. C, overreaction. The US will overreact to attacks on allies because of our expansive policy means bolstering deterrence is insufficient because allies are unaffected. That's 20 C Goodman and 20 C Duchich. And 4, deterrence by denial alone is impossible. Only the permutation solves Vanderbilt. 17, most US deterrence by defense of the US has yet to reply with punishment, but without elements of denial, punishment, deterrence, we can fail. Denial alone is impossible. The cyber victim always trying to discern road access exists how to stop in Miami near intrusion. Successful deterrence requires both defensive and offensive capabilities in order to signal cyber security should not deter the threat of credible retaliation. The US cannot expect to improve without an established form of retaliatory punishment. 5, they can't just fiat an early warning system. Requires a number of measures that to be taken that would fail because of lack of meta coordination and structurally failing US deterrence that was above. 11, same. So that goes for infrastructure and requires broader shift in the alliance framework, which means a plan is a prerequisite now. The counterplan. 1, perm to both shield to link F seen as acquiescing to Constitution Convention. 2, perm to the counterplans the way the plan can be done. 3, perm to the plan to the counterplans process. 4, links and benefit of statewide conventions usually controversial. 5, can't solve amendments, take years and delay as escalatory. Cyber attacks are likely now addressing the amendments are difficult to adopt even if they would not take effect for a number of years. 6, since it is natural precedent, letting 50 states decide how to conduct foreign policy makes all kinds of meddling inevitable and affects the Fed's credibility in the eyes of allies and adversaries. 7, fuck this counterplan in particular. If it's a reason to reject the team, functions off of differences in implementation, makes debate about procedural questions versus the rest, makes the gap debate itself, which just for competitive equity and not flexibility. The Taiwan counterplan. 1, terminal no link. We don't affect CSD or collective self-defense. Rather, we reinterpret the U.S.'s definition of armed attack. The U.S. currently takes a position that we don't need to consult with other states before triggering collective self-defense, which is not a part of Article 51 that lets us defend Taiwan. The second is that the plan changes armed attack, which is fundamentally different. All of the 1AC evidence is about the U.S.'s interpretation of armed attack in the cyber context being too low, which means the U.S. could respond to any type of attack, but it has nothing to do with whether or not the U.S. has to consult with Taiwan or China before invading Taiwan. 3, their evidence is about collective self-defense, which is not the after. Here's a re-highlighting. 20, there are a few principles more essential than the provision of a state's use of military force against another state without the authorization of the Security Council, without justification. Self-defense adherence that principle will actually encourage force. And 4, no internal link. The U.S. strategic interest in Taiwan is a part of its East Asia forward presence. The U.S. wouldn't abandon. 5, neither side will initiate conflict. Verse 19, China will not initiate full-scale military campaign to achieve unification. Each side has other ways of pursuing those goals. Both sides have been carefully managing their interaction over how much of the chance Taiwan declares independence explicitly or 0. The population is paid to that. 6, the U.S. won't be drawn in. Heathen Thompson. 17, relations
relationship turning towards greater tension of extreme stability, hostility, make us accidental escalation, unlikely the relationship operates at a much lower hostility and threat. Now the watching or basing around each other's principal enemy view each other as an important trade war and concerns. Military competition operates at a far lower level intensity. U.S. and Chinese militaries are not posture to fight each other in major wars. The infrastructure decide 1, no link. The executive has political cover, which means there's no controversy. 2, filibuster and other things that are happening now. Thumping. I mean the infrastructure doesn't pass. 3, can't vote in this. Decide no details on what's in the package and its months and ways. Zabalas Rock 322. The package hasn't been finalized. What has considering breaking the package in smaller parts. The prospect of the bill that reaches by doesn't many minutes away. It's path leading with the risk infrastructure is always bipartisan. Yet we can't seem to put it across the finish line. 4, no strategy for passage means the link is fabrication. 5, the one passing their link story is garbage. Petty P 322. Biden's developing a remark for the government to Congress where bipartisan division back to House and red hack with leader dead and House temporary representatives does not appear enough support the raising taxes at the end of the Americans. The officials on all lobbyists who are contributing these to the harbor begins now to navigate with competing demands of aggressive center Republicans. They have a long way to go before they get out of here. 6, definitely can solve warming. Other actors like China and India are way bigger alt causes that the dissent doesn't affect. 7, bill can solve warming. 2, lengthy pricing and uncertain freedom. And 21, the plans are the firm to reach a little super demands for some reduction possibly consumption. The package includes one of the most efficient way to draw down emissions. Although the government Biden strategy, long-term projects and regulations would take years to analyze linking it to on emissions. The scale of the climate problem demands most of the efficient response. Science and Harvard's caution that the government achieve job creation and climate knowledge compatible for based reliant shovel ready projects. Those aren't the ones who achieve decarbonization. I'm going to go back to the deterrence turn on case. The link is wrong. A conventional deterrence fails because of interest asymmetries and adversaries are less vulnerable and only active defense solves. That's 20C Solmeyer and Borgard. B, countermeasures solve. They de-escalate disputes even below arms or threat thresholds by offering options to respond. That's 20C Deeks. And link turn down shifting to Article 4 strengthens deterrence. Sorry, 19. As CSD not as universal response all threats as attempt to just random rejection. This attempt to abandon a paper consultation. Article 4 stipulates all parties will consult. Taking together Article 4 and 5 cover the full spectrum challenges. Article 4 extended any situation. Article 4 is about force to explicit treaty division consultant. The situation Article 5 not applicable provides a basis for countering threats below arms attack. That was marked at threats below arms attack. I'll send that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the extra card was sent.
Okay, we're just gonna pull that up. That's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to start with the first advantage. A lot of your cards seem to advocate for a consequential or individual approach. The Schmidt evidence that you read on the deterrence turn said it's best to approach different cases individually. How does the AF do that when it establishes kind of a yes/no question as to how we would respond?
So I guess you're sort of misunderstanding the threshold set by the affirmative. The AF adopts a new threshold that is in line with international law per Nicaragua, but that threshold is not overly restrictive such that the US does not have some flexibility in how to respond. It is a limit on the US's, it is a limit insofar as it is more limiting than the position the US takes in the status quo,
I guess
but it affords flexibility in responding.
A separate question about that, the Lin evidence, we've all somewhat agreed that low scale Russian attacks are a threat. I guess if the AF does not permit the US to respond to those attacks aggressively, I am confused then kind of what OCOs would look like to respond to those attacks.
Well, no, okay. The difference between responding sort of aggressively and responding with OCOs is that the plan prevents the US from responding to low-level Russian attacks with an armed attack, i.e. a full-scale military use of force, but it does not prevent the US from using low-scale OCOs like hackbacks and counter-espionage.
I understand the distinction, but I just don't know what OCOs do to prevent Russia from escalating with those attacks.
I mean, I guess Russia can conduct a lot of different type. Sorry?
What do OCOs do to solve that?
Right. Russia can conduct a lot of different types of attacks, but the 1AC Solmeyer evidence says that because those low-level attacks can't be deterred, lower-level US cyber action that sort of hacks into opponent systems to prevent them from conducting attacks through things like espionage and preemptive hacking is key to solve for those level attacks by preventing them from occurring in the first place.
Second advantage, I just have no clue what attacks the US will respond to. The blank evidence. Okay. What minor attack?
The problem.
Let me finish asking. What minor attack is coming now that the US is going to respond to with nuclear weapons? Like, who
Okay,
is going
well,
to attack us?
the argument is we don't need to win that the US would respond to a low-level attack, but rather that the US's current interpretation of Article 51 is that we could use an armed attack to respond
Right,
to
if we're not
anything.
going to, then how on earth do you get to World War III? The bottom of this card
Because
is like
it's
minor
about-
provocations and countermeasures. So your argument is like we could respond, but then how do you get to war?
It's about the setting of norms. Our argument is that a low threshold for Article 51 can spill over and mean that other countries adopt a similarly low threshold, which structurally makes the propensity for escalation in response
Okay,
to
I'm
any
more
low-level threat more
asking,
likely.
like what war are you going to describe to outweigh a disad we go to with this advantage? Like what other country now, if it's not about the US, if it's about some other country, what other country is going to respond to a low-level cyber attack now with a nuclear weapon?
We don't have one specific war. Rather, our argument is that allowing countries
war
to
can
use
happen. We
armed
don't know
attacks
where,
to
we don't know
respond
when, we
to
don't know which,
anything
but like
means that
outweighs.
any low-level incursions in the status quo are more likely to escalate, which structurally increases the propensity for conflict escalation.
Okay, we're gonna start. me stop, Brett.
It's sent. Okay, the order is the response type counterplan. MDT pick, the like Article 5 pick. Taiwan DA. Con counterplan. Infrastructure DA, and then the deterrence counterplan.
Sorry, can I get that again?
Yeah, sorry. So the response type counterplan, the Congress thing, the Article 5 pick, the Taiwan DISAD, con, infrastructure, and then the deterrence counterplan. Okay, is anyone all ready? All good, cool. Executive power spots global preemption and outweighs one probability magnitude global hotspots go nuclear top of 6 U.S. specified by standards and doctrines that lower the threshold for action exacerbate the regional crisis in countries on the record where the use of the doctrine of action in the U.S. make it harder and the to consult its only examples abound from China, Taiwan, Middle East, and India, and Pakistan. Nothing more would protect the world from nuclear weapons in the U.S. and acting in legal boundaries. 2. Its ministry for Biden leads to endless great power warfare that's been ruled in 21. The air strikes in Syria and already undermining the commitment for forever wars. So we're kindling debates over presidential powers Obama and Trump promises they won't end wars. The question is will Biden fail on the interventions of small project lives and trillion, and the Biden team reveals that they can strike terrorists and sustain commitments America can't do it. All the fog of wars, unpredictable great power competitions, called the small race turn into quagmires. 2. We have an external impact counterplan solves autocratic backplanning globally. That's 1. C. Fisher, authoritarianism causes extinction. That's Farquhar. 17. The oppressive regimes have killed more than 100 million. The chances of the world will be dominated by totalitarian attack. Make it easier for totalitarian to maintain control of the existential threat risk by reducing the quality of governance. A future under global totalitarian would be worse than extinction. Permutation do both. 1. It can't solve the net benefit. The counterplan clarifies that Congress will not allow introduction of forces even if the Defense Act is activated. That's key. 2. Setting a president that the Defense Act and increase new presidential powers is official evidence. 2. The question must be defense specs. That's Fisher 00. The Truman secured their 2 resolutions from the UN Bush followed when Clinton at the same the president engaged in the caution that through the Defense Act president could go to the Council for Authority and eliminates Congress and started with the outside body and the close to accepting the president would take into the country no legal and constitutional difference. Presidents acting unconstitutionally and Congress is declined to protect itself. 3. Since the PERM's president doesn't change the international basis for war powers, it fails desperately and grab with 16 to understand presidential powers. It is unnecessary to consider law in governing use of force in the U.S. decision making being linked to law, and the president's draw for the law to enhance the authority needs to account of this. 4. The plan removes the question of the phrase constitutional process provided by a congressional veto. That's Fisher 14. The constitutional precedent applies by the language of the defense treaties, and the treaty does not provide presidency authority to commit force to one defending or according to the constitutional precedent. Treaties did not transfer the power of the president. Nevertheless, the colonial government rely on it to win the force without coming to Congress. In the treaty does not transfer power to make war. Perm to the counterplan 1. It's in Article 5 pick. The counterplan doesn't change our treaty. There's no mandated response as official evidence. It means the perm is severance. That's Yahoo Milo 16. The alliance commitments written pledges that formalize security cooperation focus on defense facts. Defense facts or treaties that Trilo 19 enter into international relations, alliances, and partnerships. Very different alliances are formal agreements. Treaties are the documents that seal the deal. Alliance and partnership are less formally alliance. They can be short term. They don't involve a treaty. 2. The counterplan doesn't limit the conditions in which it is activated. Questions of when, not how, we respond conceded. They are distinct literature bases. That's at least in 7 evidence. Counterplan doesn't change activations. That's Pedo 19. The salient review MDT. The activation 9. What actions trigger the treaty counterplans under which its defense pact will be activated means the Caspadares. Other limitations like burden sharing and conditions are not topical. That's Seborowski 19. The scope of involves the formal duration and the application of burden sharing agreements. The Caspadares, the conditions on which the alliance will be activated in the decision making process. Counterplan is distinct
the explode limit makes any weapons ban or response type into topical, even if just adding response type doubles. The literature resets the Decker 19 cast figures, second which mutual defense factor activated the second classification. The alliance is a type of commitments. Once activated, the commitments are required in the fast figures occurs. 3 precision activation condition obligate action or distinct. That's Sal and Ashes in 19. The obligation definition or obligated action activation condition is a condition that triggers the obligation activation condition requires the condition activated and the obligation will be handled separately. Now the intrinsic perm. The perm is just do the plan and then have SCOTUS agree with it. It's not even an intrinsic perm. It just links more, it reinforces the president's power and adds on SCOTUS to block any congressional challenges. It doesn't solve the net benefit for the same reasons above because it didn't act through a congressional mechanism that sets the question of defense facts. If anything, it just has the court actually reinforce the presidential powers, which is net worse for the net benefit. But if it is somehow intrinsic or explained that way, that's bad. It's a voting issue. One net ground. They kill all counterplans and dissets. There are millions of planks you could add, and they don't prove the F is good. 2 vagueness. They don't specify what else attacks on which kill net ground. It's impossible to clash with anything. Not knowing the object of the threat assumes there's a limited upper cost to something else. The tie goes neck. Even if intrinsic perms are good versus theoretically illegitimate counterplans, that just begs the question of theory. But you have no theoretical objection to the specific mechanism of the counterplan. The counterplan is theoretically legitimate. One, it is sexually and functionally competitive. The perms proved as a distinct and competitive base, which should be net ground. There's no basis for exclusion other than it solves the case, which is a slippery slope to no counterplans. 2, the defense pact is specifically good. It's the focal point of the topic paper and only functional limit on the topic. The F is destroying in elim, so the neg needs any chance that they can get. We force in depth and nuanced research on specific articles of the treaty. They force the F to write a defense pact key warrant about legal authority or interpretation of terms in the article. 3, they reject the arg, not the team. 4, they botched F writing. The advantage should be permitted to go to war bad, not required to go to war bad. That's Anderson 18. The article does not require it to go to war. Why article is important the primary effects and not to enable not obligate U.S. military action. Solvency deficit will be entered on the Article 5 peg perm through the process. It's just a shitty wording for perm do both or perm to the counterplan. All the answers apply. If it's not, it's severance or intrinsic, which was all impacted above. It doesn't link hard to the warrant for this is political cover. That's not any component of the net benefit. Executive is not key to clarity. 1, this card says general statements without presidential reinforcement fail in the context of declaratory statements by the DOD during the Obama administration. That doesn't assume Congress taking the action and the court following through. 2, turnsel, executive control and secrecy builds in groupthink. That's a Feisman 10, the one agent changing and promotes liberation here, which encourages that the other was instead he showed that the value and expressive concerns are insufficient in the second opinion will reduce the power decision making was caused by the executive manipulation, and the one solution would be to increase the info gathering on Congress and the you mistakenly accept that the effective info was given in precedence or more likely to become important to increase the approval and legislative localized interest and not really by the unilateral action is likely to be overly aggressive engagement and succumb to groupthink and the dissent becomes difficult and research shows that the Congress has an aversion to guerrilla wars. This would have little impact on time. 2, errors. 3, groupthink causes war with Russia over Ukraine. That's Perry 15. If you wonder why legal groupthink and legal grouping are actually shape study happens with Ukraine, there was no thorough debate about anything in the establishment overall 2 years west of peace. Russia and they have been accused of advocating that the United States rushing to a core war with Russia. We are seeing a new McCarthyism and the conformity that the presents a serious threat to the future of the planet. Congress makes sense. 1, security treaties give Congress decisions on force means they can act as a public veto without changing treaty obligations. That's Fisher. 2, the second plan cut off if someone says the counterplan is illegal. SCOTUS will refuse to read why. I won't even read more cards here because they conceded that plank and don't have a solvency deficit to it. Congressional foreign policy is good. 1, the revenue system 2005. It's specifically about speed and resources, which was answered above. It says preemptive offensive strikes is bad, which is a double turn with the 1AC and the card they read above. 2, Congress is key to prevent catastrophic mistakes. That's Brady's 21. Biden's airstrike is a executive overreach review made the case that the war powers from the high stock powers are gaining from monarchy and would reinstate the legislature and the powerless unchecked and the susceptible abusing rushing into catastrophic change only checks insulate itself. Now the process counterplan stuff. No, it's not a reason to reject the team. All of the theory stuff above proves why our specific one is good, which is not better than any vague interpretation of process counterplan good I can make. It's a new app, which means we should have some more sort of flexibility in that rope. And this argument is just a slippery slope to all counterplans bad because all counterplans have a process to solve the app. Conditionality is good. 1, neg flex is a new app. The neg gets to be reactive. Only condo gets to overcome the research and prep deficit. 2, logic, draw the line. It was in the 1 and T, just reading the counterplan doesn't prove the plan is good. The irrational interpret kills education and predictability. 3, they didn't disclose that kills clash pre-run prep and least bad apps. Reject the team. 4, not a voter. They missed when what we did made it impossible. Disable instant offer doesn't solve. Teams can add planks and force perms into it. What we clarify as condo. Now the MDT pick, we're not going for the counterplan linked to the net benefit for the other counterplan, which means the perms don't solve. Deficits do apply. 1, don't apply. 1 is credible deterrence. Adversaries and allies. No, that's going 98. The Congress has very wide authority over foreign affairs may require the objection of the president. Congress can pass legislation inconsistent with the interpretation then provoked by treaty partners. Active defense and over response. Counterplan doesn't maintain the definition. The counterplan constitution prevents forces changing. The treaty is unnecessary. That's Dunlap 16. Does NATO automatically require U.S. force? No. The response is whatever it deems necessary in accordance with their constitutional process. If you believe that Congress must authorize force, it would mean that the president has to go back to Congress. NATO neither obviates domestic authority nor focus the decision not to use force. The U.S. treaty obligation do not automatically like the core of any security treaty is a political will. The U.S. has flexibility. Picks are good. Narrow the focus of the debate to less than the plan. That was all done above. Clash, research, holistic advocacy, and conditionality all justified. And act choice makes tricks predictable. Now the Taiwan dissat. I really thought I'd be extending this stuff, but then the 2AC just zeroed advantage 2, saying we don't affect CSD, we affect arm attack. Means you don't solve any ally roles in the context of Article 51 because the U.S.'s biggest violation of the Nicaragua case in Article 51 is that they are ignoring collective defense in the context of Taiwan. And you've agreed with that. They make this argument for us. Concede that, quote, the U.S. currently takes the position that we do not need to consult with with other states before it triggers collective self-defense. That's the core of Article 51. That means they solve nothing. That's Kelly 3. The states turn the reprisal with a grand strike and continue to engage after the self-defense actions, and then left unchallenged the American interpretation Article 51 broadens the permission to include the attacks on their myth, not as to condemn their interpretation, not in accordance with the UN Charter. The counterplan kick can see the perm test of competition theory is the reason to reject the argument of the team. Infrastructure dissent can see no link. We're not going for it now. The deterrence counterplan perm do both. One, it can only make deterrence credible for conventional reasons, but it collapses Article 55 ambiguity, which will be all the links in the 1 and R2. The counterplan provides all prerequisites for effective deterrence, but the plan collapses. That's candidate. And starts in 16, NATO appears to have a cybersecurity posture and the threshold would include that Article is not certain, and we are keeping that ambiguous. The potential risk is not the idea they can carry out the level of impunity, keeping it ambiguous is flexibility. This is a deliberate ambiguity reinforcing the position that will value that case by case. NATO should establish an early warning system, and this would give further notice, and NATO could focus more on denial, and NATO would encourage the information sharing. NATO should maintain the ambiguous for justifying Article 51 responses would be justifying a windows of opportunities. Now, the other perm links and benefits still touches the red line. All this type about solving the app is irrelevant. The Albertsons and Borgard evidence specifically say that failure to distinguish between lower level operations and genuine cyber attacks is what causes this, which means establishing a clear cyber early warning system and cyber deterrence right now obviously solves it. We also don't need to solve the app, just provide uniqueness for the term. The counterplan provides uniqueness the U.S. can improve. That's been taught in 17. The finding collaboration group cyber defense capabilities, the UN NATO will change the concepts and the bolster interpretability. This will help the broader cozy response, and the U.S. must continue to take the lead in advancement within its own and capability of allow the U.S. to lead to a permanent cyber defense, and these is urgent with regards to the U.S. and NATO. Now, the stuff at the bottom about why we can't fiat it, you fiat these things too. You obviously fiat a sort of negotiation with NAC and with other countries, which proves that it's reciprocal. We should be able to fiat early warning systems and info sharing, and we'll free out the process that it takes to do that.
Are you good for cross-ex?
Yeah.
Okay. The response type counterplan, you've characterized it as a pick out of Article 5. What does the policy of the, or I guess like, what does the action taken by the counterplan look like if it's a pick out of Article 5?
So it specifically just says that Congress will not enter any sort of aid or force into hostilities if the Defense Pact is activated.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I guess like what is the difference between that and limiting Article 5?
Okay, so presidents use the fact of the article and defense pacts as treaties to prove that sort of they're these like unanimous leaders in military process. The counterplan clarifies that Congress will not allow the introduction of forces even when the defense pact is activated, right? So that sort of obviates this presidential war power that they have to activate the defense pact, because Congress will not follow through on that once it is activated, right? The clear move to sort of mute that presidential power over defense pacts is key to setting the president that congressional powers are supreme to the executive broadly and specifically in the context of defense pacts.
Sure. I want to talk about the stuff you said on the Taiwan Decide. You've said that Article 51 is about collective self-defense. Can you point to me a line in this card that says that the U.S.'s interpretation of collective self-defense is what makes the U.S.'s interpret of Article 51 bad?
So I don't even know. I honestly have no idea what you just said, but I'll just explain what the argument was specifically. So our argument is, like you said, Article 51 includes collective self-defense. We've all agreed in the 1AC and the 2AC that the United States is flagrantly violating collective self-defense in the context of Article 51.
No, I mean,
the 2AC said, quote, the U.S. currently takes the position that we don't need.
But all of our impacts are about a low threshold of armed attack being bad.
No, they're
what does
not.
this have to do with that? They are.
Come on, like you're reading cards from like 2003 and 2005 that specifically are not that specific. I don't know why you're setting that threshold for yourself, because once the judges read them, like, what are you going to do? Like the Kelly card is broadly about Article 51.
Okay, yes, the Kelly card is an impact card that's broadly about Article 51, but all of our internal links are about the U.S.'s interpretation of armed attack.
It to be an internal link card. And you explained it to me. It's
how does the existence of the collective self-defense doctrine implicate the impact of the F?
It's not that the existence of collective self-defense, it's that collective self-defense is a core part of Article 51 and UN treaties, and the U.S. is flagrantly violating them. So nothing that the United States, that like the plan does to reform the United States in cyber can possibly.
Right. My question is, how does that implicate our impacts? How does that implicate our impacts when every impact is about setting a low armed attack threshold being bad?
Because this is in the context of cyber too.
That doesn't really answer my question.
Yeah, the United States is violating sort of like Japanese like collective self-defense in the context of cyber attacks, Korean self-defense.
Yes, but our impacts are the U.S. thinks we can respond to anything as an armed attack. That's bad. What does that have to do with that?
Right, they continue to do that in the context of every other alliance, because you don't solve the justification in Article 51 for other alliances, right? You just solve the context of NATO's definition of armed attack. And then you read a definition that's like Article 51 broadly influences it. So other alliances, all cause.
The 1 NR is being sent. It's advantage 1, advantage 2. Okay, is anyone not ready?
Sorry, I'm still pulling it up.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Good now. Thanks.
Okay. Everyone good? Effective deterrence outweighs the turns of the case when it acts as a faster scenario for cyber war. No one will launch an attack now, but realize give cyber offenders a short time frame to launch a massive intrusion below the Article 5 threshold. Russia will attack, use proxy actors like terrorist groups and us. NATO resolve that spare 2 NATO cyber deterrence is global North threat, cyber attacks Berlin, 10 integration required coordination aside from the cyber threats community as a cyber smarter, where attacks with critical infrastructure, electrical grids, oil, or finance clouds leak killing people immediately. Destruction could be greater than World War II. NATO makes accelerate efforts to respond to NATO cyber attacks, developing deterrence to virtual phase 2 emerging threats. Close partnerships will help to establish norms for responding to cyber attacks. Or only our scenario has an external impact. 1, Russia will pursue revisionist aggression in the Baltics and close its sphere of influence via hybrid tactics and cyber warfare. Ghost drop. That's green lights mass authoritarianism and class as a liberal order. That's KGN extinction, horror, and 18 attempts by the world result in war and genocide. Common problem can only solve the global nuclear war, climate change, and take an air biotech arms race for guarantee the recycling the loser the main humanity as a real wealth that's considered weapons system. The only thing that can prevent arms race is great trust. It's not impossible to start humankind needs global club. The only viable blueprint is the rules and 2 NATO cohesion is key to solve great power conflict with Russia and China's lead scenario that causes nuclear war that's calendar. And the first argument is that SAS disproves Russia because Russia's increasing attacks. NATO has survived on ambiguity, deters attacks, and key for allied flexibility. For 14 NATO survived on ambiguity for decades on the related automatic trigger for conventional attack. There leaves vast amounts of wiggle room to science or still deterrent cyber conscious decisions by allies are still benefiting keeping flexibility ambiguity. And Article 5 should be invoked on case to case basis. Article 5 is a trigger. Certain threshold NATO was willing to come to accountable and Crimea so hackers and city will not be attacked. Effective deterrence ensures tamed attribution. Now when it's evolved against political interest, make the aggressor clear to NATO when deterrence is high retaliation does not escalate to miscalc, which is the threshold for this uniqueness post joint attribution is possible. And the references to multilateral organization, Elstrop, and Swagger, and 17 experts say that there was a reliable attack, a reliable attributed possible target attribution of stable resources that were legible attribution available to the training cyber deterrence collective action will be taken to a degree where they're capable of retaliating joint attribution would increase credibility of threats uniquely true for NATO, although in 18 NATO cooperation with coordinated partners and the EU heightened by highlighted by recent attribution that will go pull up for the future countries. So as again that could be targeted as partnership agreements, the 2 organizations complement each other. Next argument is the link term. That's tough because Schmidt votes neg does not want the establishment of a strict standard, wants an individual approach, which is not the average. Does not say a standard is key. The link debate won the plan's limitation of NATO's response to cyber attacks encourages red light circumvention. Buckley 14 post spelling out any specifications for NATO article Red to be turned to appear and attempt adversaries to circumvent concerning application article 5 cyber attacks negotiation. To each case, surprise article 5 should be asked and Strasla lessons the military force to no longer appropriate most dangerous source of confusion as Russia's concerned. 2 small concessions snowball to broader deterrence post code and 16 accommodation of president said but also one of cause one appetite for the aggression and consenting to Russia's expansion national interest related period with NATO as the criminal operation free hand that could result in serious calculation over just begin sparking comments with the alliance members. 3 defining the article 5 threshold green light the tax Sullenberg and 18 nowhere is Buckle William Secretary hackers targeted political parties to separate democracy. Some wage software with daily consequences. Data has a paragraph security cyber trigger article about the could provoke response must remain porously vague. Clearly defined cyber threshold by cyber attack beneath the response include conventional terrorist leaders to invest more cyber attacks. Every ally upgraded defense NATO solving allies working their integrated capabilities. Active defense does not solve it, doesn't deter attacks. Only establishing a red light does. They also don't guarantee a switch to active defense. The key evidence no one sees bad. It says that definitions differ and add confusion, which the plan stokes. The link turn is also much slower than the link. They must develop new capabilities, and gap is equivalent to revealing our capabilities renders deterrence useless. Ban 16 is full. Extended states that necessarily matter. Ambiguity specific states for real exploits only liability to facing capability better useless must be these are that make contribute to erosion of NATO. Ambiguity is key to deterrence. Davis and 19 NATO maintains cyber deterrence. Ambiguity cyber deterrence opposite of alliance were to seek calculate threshold opponents would stable this would encourage attacks to the threshold. Ambiguity make opponents free for or stepping over visible lines. Keep option to deter attacks introduces useful doubts. No link argument 1 article 5 is credible. They have read no evidence on this question. Grays under hybrid tactics to nonsense because peace and war binary adversaries want red lines to hover below Paul and 16 right about the pressure to contrast binary distinction between peace and war inspired by Grays and public adversaries not be made decisions they recognize we do not use through the advanced connected aggression advance and detect while leaving the door open not war side adversaries avoid opportunities to escalate. We need to recognize peace and war separate away wide range of foreign smash and more in those competitions. NATO is cohesive now. Becker lists things like trade does not contextualize it to deeper incohesiveness and says that article 5 is what matters most and it's strong now. Keel 21 Biden emphasizes the commitment to alliances under article 5 and under this commitment to strengthening transatlantic security referring to the principle of NATO's central government. The president emphasized deterrence. Article 4 does not solve. We shouldn't have a mysterious spectrum of responses that require lengthy consultation for all attacks successful in by Western aggression, and this also proves that the length turn just takes much longer than the length. The grid is strong now. Our evidence assumes upgraded tech, which was a war in the 2AC they dropped. The uniqueness claim in Lewis that Russia won't attack now, and scrolls have posed a larger threat to the grid than attackers. That's a Friedberg evidence. That's a Friedberg evidence. And advantage 2, we did not read an impact defense because they straight up did not read an impact. The first piece of evidence was essentially scratched in 2AC cross-X. I asked what attacks will happen, that the U.S. will respond to, that will escalate to World War III, and they said that there are none about U.S. modeling, but could not list other countries. They would also respond to lower level provocations with the use of force. The next card, the Coulson evidence, is about ending the unilateral use of force. Russia, China, Iran will not agree to consult others in the U.S. before they use force. Next, Kelly was indicted in the 2NC. Also held laws from 2003 about countries like Iran who will listen to the U.S. The next scenario, the Duce evidence says that other countries follow now, which proves the U.S. isn't key. The Beeman evidence is about U.S. norm shaping, but we can't create cyber norms. Illustrop and so in 17, even if NATO experts managed to reach an agreement on question important that the tail managers are created by international law, only governments that do this necessarily international consensus how existing international laws apply in cyberspace. The law of codified the international means there's simply no distinction with that clear ominous standing simply insisting that IHL applies in cyberspace is of little use. Structural uncertainty makes norms ineffective. Well, it's at 9. I law, centralized law, make it resolve legal uncertainty. Norms are imprecise, contested internally, and contradictory, subject to multiple interpretations. So centralized lawmaking provides gives rise to the fundamental uncertainty about the content of norms relationship between different treaties and CIL are subject to no set of rules and theories. Fundamental rules help sort out conflicts, but these rules are contested and indeterminate as for umbrage proliferation, contradictory norms, ambiguities, collapse. Seeing in 19, the architecture of international norms of cyber conflict could tell the legal logic in the heart, which was shaky at best. The project developed cracks, cause, and effect in cyber operation analogous to IHL. The telemanual is too quick to apply the analogy. Blind spots have become gaping holes. The telemanual Western arrangement, United Nations grouped into combat cyber hostilities, fill flat details or brush two-sided by sided territory haziness or intent and impact assumptions that restrictions are enforceable. Experts assume cyber attacks have calculated controlled infants. The operator knows hacking thrives under ambiguity. Armed attack is not clear from a clear understanding. Not with the cyberspace openness as a consequence. That was an armed attack, but could be preemptive contradiction. United States has cyber plays with Russia as price. Russian retaliation guaranteed. LOA. See the Clarkson uncertainty is possible to document the impact despite millions of dollars. Operators can offer CD to the cyber stuff, not hardcore, which serves proportional response into its fallacy to measure damage without some kind of equivalent sense of territoriality is bizarre and progressive.
Okay, 650. Are we good for an order? I think we're missing a couple judges. Oh, all here. Okay. So advantage 1, advantage 2, the deterrence counterplan, then the process counterplan.
I think his internet went out. He was having some issues with it today. Oh, he's back.
Did I cut out? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Am I having internet issues or is there? No, okay, never mind. Anyone not good? We structure control uniqueness. Russia will not be deterred by overly expansive definition of attack. We don't believe that the US will use force to respond to low level attacks, which is why they're occurring now. Per 1C work, I want to see Shelley why they're one in evidence of one in our evidence is super old. There's no link. One is that all of our link to records of a NATO status quo threshold is good, which is tough given the fact that all of the AFS is aligned the US with a threshold that's already used by every other NATO member. Schmidt in 19 complicated matters is fact uses long taking position threshold of use of force and self-defense every use of force and armed attack. No available adopted assumption to have any was 1 0 use of force and invoke out of 5 which will be low use of force. Just cyber qualified armed attack victim will be entitled to in location Article 2 countermeasures drop defense using use less escalatory operation to respond to attacks even if Article 5 isn't triggered, which still deters Russia per 1C DX argument. It's just that we need the threat of response, not that we need Article 5 more evidence itself. Economic 17 can always undertake our friendly accident influence over state action. No every towards may include sanctions. They might take action with violent central and responsible military cyber the victim of prevents victim to take over unlawful measures cause take apply obligations that will extend a couple of link terms. First, clarity is good. It means that adversaries can't exploit uncertainty as to whether or not figures to retaliate because they know we will. That's 2 Smith evidence. He votes F at Smith 17. The legislating to exploit ambiguity made friendly to victim ambiguity uncertainty lead escalation state conduct cyber operation will not believe operation just not my unlawful life is believe it. You have to lawfully right interpret countermeasure extra increase in cost to and necessary respect clarification like hands deterrence marked deterrence 2 is the app causes shift to Article 4 which is drop coming out of 2 one in our need a reason why Article 5 in particular escape itself every cyber attack isolate absent that greater flexibility afforded by Article 4 solves better by allowing graduate array response of its Lewis and the story of its comparatively better for deterrence than 19 Article 5 imperative tool despite a further regarded as the hyper over potential Article 5 trigger threshold to high adversaries no place of our pursuit against attack facility for responsibility needs of defense against greater challenge greater opportunity needs to be Article 4 in test by coordination and mechanisms strength of collective defense of the landscape conduct more of their NATO survivor and ambiguity card. The justice is just as confusing to allies and ensures that we can't use the right tool to combat and 2 even if they attribute their response itself will be incredible which means that it doesn't matter if it's just an impact to grid and conflict. Our evidence says that our evidence says that cyber attacks are coming now. They're going to be larger in intensity if the US will overreact. Plus that our grid is vulnerable because we're interconnected on a broader scope. Their impacts rely on winning a larger link than we saw, which can't be the case. We've also dropped the argument that the retaliation would be guaranteed at the higher end, so Russia would not do things like cyber attack, military installations, etc., which solves the terminal impact of that. Advantage 2, there's the first introvert index for Colson card is about unilateral uses of force, and it is about other countries, even if Russia won't agree. It's about upholding of a liberal international system as it exists in a status quo. But Kelly card from 03 might be from 03, but it is about unilateral uses of force, and it discusses the sort of Article 51 invocation of armed attack. In particular, yes, we create cyber norms. Our Solvency card says that U.S. acting as a first mover creates norms in those regions. Allies will respond even if it takes a while. Plus, first mover means that the other allies will have to respond because of U.S. influence. They have no their card is old, and it's not about this particular standard, which all of our specific evidence says that is sufficient to attack oneself as irrelevant. All of our want to see evidence on advantage 2 is about why the U.S. adopts an overly expansive definition of the phrase armed attack per Article 51. The plan changes that by reinterpreting armed attack to be more restrictive, changing it to the context of NATO spills over because of norm setting per Vindman, which we've conceded, which means that we do spill over to offer kinetic action that is broader than just cyber. It has nothing to do with collective self-defense now, but deterrence counterplan. It fails 1 to 9 access is a impossible that's the approach to evidence. Our evidence says that it's too ambiguous. Ambiguity is bad, which is all the things of case. All things of case. If we win any strain on case, it also takes off a thesis of it turns counterclaim because they're just exacerbating what's bad in the first place. Second is that after Solar wins, they already have the information, which means that it's not sufficient. Third is that they third is that they drop that Article 5 is key. It obviously doesn't solve the second advantage at all, which means that it's external offense, and they permutation do both. Permutation do both solves. We have reasons why it solves because if it strengthens those defenses, then having the actual response itself is irrelevant, or definition is irrelevant because they literally fiat the U.S. do those things with allies. So changing our definition itself will not actually cause them to change their actions, and it proves that it solves. Basically, everything on Advantage 1 answers it in the first place. Process. First, at the top, they fucked up the permutation of the third permutation does a plan in the process of a counterplan over broader things such as cyber operations. We've just taken the plan and the counterplan, but taken out the word cyber. It is not intrinsic. It is textually competitive because it has all words of a plan and plan, and somewhere in some words of a counterplan. The textually competitive but functioning intrinsic permutations are okay. Otherwise, it makes it impossible for us to be affirmative because we can always do things like do X unless a plan occurs, which makes the F defendants the best idea ever, which is the worst of all worlds. The permutation, even if it is intrinsic, it's slightly intrinsic. It's fine. Second is that it solves the internal net benefit because they have no reason why it's cyber is key. They have a reason why the MDT is key, but if we remove the word cyber, then we would over broader
I don't know if you know. We can't hear you.
You cut out.
which this is,
We
Pace
can't-
it out.
we
You
couldn't
cut out
hear
for
you.
us at like 1:35.
Yeah, we stopped at 1:35.
If everyone's good with that.
You were on the intrinsic perm.
okay.
I have
135.
you cutting off like right after you said the phrase "no reason cyber is key."
Okay. That's fine.
On the perm, yeah.
We can hear you now, though. So.
Cool. I'll use a stopwatch, man. Give me a second. No reason cyber risk. Okay, cool. Good. Awesome. What was I saying? Okay, yeah. It is over broader lines, which is sufficient to solve. It's also no offense one. We can't add words or word scramble because we can only delete words that exist in the counterplan text, which means that which means that there's no risk of us there's no risk of the infinite planks or evidence talks about, and it's our Afghan always because we can literally make us defend the best idea ever because we can include any part of the counterplan which includes a abandoned plan portion. Now the argument's proper one obviously doesn't solve advantage 2. We have no explanation because our whole point is that we need to change the actual definition of Article 5, not just the response itself. We have to change the definition of armed attack, which means that is external offense. There's no risk of rare offense. 1. Congress's worst first partnership again 915 congressional involvement in order to make implicitly essential Congress overall America responsibility to identify hallmarks of its function difficult to efficient how it says the reactor body will be functional as a consequence of matter of nuclear hardness and policy major contribution to base over military action. Congress is controlling every active involvement or tactical decision making is totally secrecy and not reliable commercial behavior of legislative if you might precipitate crisis simply potential U.S. aggression. 2. Their evidence is theory.
You should tell him.
Cut. Yeah.
Yeah. I
It
don't know
cut
if
out
you're
for everyone.
noticing.
Okay, cut out at like 40 seconds for me.
Yeah.
Okay, Hayes.
Is it out?
Is it out?
You froze for a sec, and now they stopped the timer again.
Okay, I'm sorry guys. I don't know what's.
So you're almost there. 40 seconds. But
I was at 40. Okay, that's quite a while ago. Okay.
What was the last
Where
thing?
was I at?
I have no idea. I'm not gonna.
I think you started the second. You said 2. Their evidence is theoretical, and
Okay,
then
cool. I got that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second arc on the Congress stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Doesn't assume a current political climate. It makes groupthink worse, which is their only external impact. It assumes Congress reorients itself totally towards foreign policy when nobody understands military compared to Generals Pelosi and McConnell will never agree, etc. 3 is that there's no internal authoritarianism argument. Their 1 car doesn't say it, and they have no reason why Congress solves it. Plus, the affirmative outweighs. They've dropped a terminal impact. Our terminal impact, which is that foreign policy meddling is bad. It causes acoustic dissonance between the executive and the congressional, which decks credibility and causes nuclear conflict between great superpowers. Their arguments about why speed, etc., are wrong. That is not the case in this particular instance. That's Seeing it 950, how does our little B2C national game being played over public irresponsible social media international perception could be outweighed by the latest signal economic celebration consent of US supposed to be acting scattered assumptions or irrational calculations. Mark that irrational calculations. Yeah, if you like miss like clarification questions, I'm happy to answer them if I kind of cut out or was staticky. I'm sorry.
I think we're good. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we got them.
Oh wait, actually, we do have one question. The solvency deficit on the counter plan.
Is it about the case or the net benefit? Is what I'm confused about.
It was about case. So the argument was that if you don't change the actual definition of armed attack, you can't solve our second advantage.
And that's at the like under the flex bat stuff or above, because that's what I'm missing.
That was
On
that was
the
above. So like, are you asking about where in the flow it was, or are you asking about
I think it was on the deterrence counter plan, but whatever. You can tell me where to flow it. Like the judges can tell me where to talk, whatever, wherever they float it.
What deficit are you asking about?
I think I can.
Okay, sure.
Can I just confirm with the judges like where they float this Article 5 deficit? Whenever they come back, makes sense. and then sit down. I don't know if you want to wait.
Yeah, I'm just keeping my camera off because
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
it
sense.
might.
Yeah, no, I just
be
wanted
better
to
for-
make sure I wasn't starting without you.
Mhm.
So it's the force of hostilities Congress counterplan, then the deterrence counterplan, and then the case in the order of advantage 1 and then advantage 2. Okay, is anyone not ready? Okay, cool. The affirmative can impact out of solvency that could possibly outweigh or any sort of external impact to all of their presidential powers. Executive powers causing global preemption outweighs time frame calculus isn't relevant because the counterplan solves the F and the turn in the interim. 1 U.S. war power set, an international precedent that countries can act without internal checks, encourages Korea, Iran, Japan, China, India, Israel, Russia, and Taiwan to start conflicts and outweighs on probability. 2 and Abayami has conceded it says that they'll take action they've already planned while no longer being constrained by legal guidelines, ensure mass prolif and cyber conflict, which causes grid collapse and escalates to every global hotspot. It's a more probable scenario for grid collapse and effective use of offensive operations on advantage 1. Biden airstrikes prove uniqueness flips negative. That's the Van Hoovel evidence. His administration is the breaking point for preventing infinite great power war and mass interventionism going nuclear. That's the Van Hoovel evidence. Probability shapes time frame. The likelihood of a large event largely determines when it will take place. The lineage of events can happen in a moment's notice, but exclusively focusing on immediacy ignores the likelihood of that immediacy of the event actually being prioritized. 2 is global autocratic blacksliding is worse than extinction and any of their impacts on the turn. It kills billions via trigger happy executive with no checks, mass oppression, and rogue technology. That's the Farco evidence. It's the largest and most external impact. Magnitude outweighs time frame. All of their impacts may be big, but they may not be big, and they may outweigh on time frame. That's wrong because focusing on short-term impacts is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Insofar as we win that without the counterplan, extinction is inevitable. Their short-term fix is irrelevant because it may buy more time, but inevitably causes a larger impact down the road. 3, it turns the U.S. strategy of outlawing unlimited arms reprisal and any of their pro stuff, which is done above. The terminal impact has no uniqueness or terminal impact, which will be on the case, but it just causes collapsing the legal norms of regimes, and they said that it's bad. Things like low-level escalation. We have evidence that the president makes every one of those low-level cyber hybrid airstrikes conflicts go nuclear due to the fundamental disregard for legal norms or checking with Congress in the context of launching nukes. The next for the permutation. 1, it's been shitty since the 2AC. It still links. The perm is just do the plan, then have SCOTUS agree with it. Just how they're arguing intrinsicness because they just add the word cyber proves that they just link more because they didn't actually change anything about the plan that means they can solve. It just reinforces the president's power and then adds on SCOTUS to block out any congressional challenges. It doesn't solve them and benefit for the same reasons as permutation do both because it doesn't act through the congressional mechanism that sets the question of defense pacts. I'll extend that now. Presidents use the fact that the defense pacts are treaties to prove they are unanimous leaders in these military processes. The counterplan clarifies that Congress will not allow introduction of forces even when the defense pact is activated. That clear move to move any presidential power or defense pact is key to setting the president that congressional powers are supreme to the executive broadly, and the defense pact can be used as a justification for new presidential power. We read evidence that the plan must affect the treaty and must specifically affect the president, which means that adding the plan obviates the core question of defense pacts and muddles the lines between the presidential and congressional war powers because it includes the treaty and lacks the sequencing required to set a precedent that the executive can't interfere by involving the president. By not including that, then there's severance, not intrinsicness, which was independently bad because it specifically makes the F not topical and justifies a bunch of US of weapons F that destroy limits, ground, and precision. That's just not answered by the 1AR. Only our evidence makes that distinction between the permutation and the plan. 1 is the 2NC Fisher evidence is that the plan edits the treaty, which directly involves the president and upholds the international treaty law mechanisms that err towards the executive. Our evidence provides the examples of Bush, Clinton, Truman using that justification to go to the UN Security Council for authority and eliminate Congress's role under the veneer that it's sort of an international law question, which muddles the net benefit solvency, and that logic greenlights unconstitutional presidential action that spills over, such as taking money from the Treasury without appropriation. 2 is the 2NC Bradley and Fisher evidence says that the perm doesn't change the international basis for executive power, which is what the treaty manages response, and the president is the sole authority over that. Presidents are drawing from international law to enhance their domestic authority, and the plan reinforces that authority. Wait, sorry, I'm going to pause the timer. Sorry. My bad. I'm starting at the perm. The intrinsicness, bad stuff.
But if the perm is intrinsic, it's bad. It kills that ground because it can be used as leverage against all counterplans. It is that adding words is terrible. It obviously means that you can edit sort of the plan text and the counterplan to sort of configure something that would somehow not link to the benefit. Afground does not weigh perm to the counterplan, perm to both, or the clear impact turn to this counterplan is an obvious action that you could take to beat the counterplan. You just did it wrong. You dropped that your justification begs the question of theory. One, limited intrinsicness is fake. It's the arbitrary and circular because it presumes the counterplan isn't a germane opportunity cost of the plan as its justification, but we specifically defended it as it is. Two, it doesn't test germane. That's called opportunity cost, which the counterplan is. The plan is bad because it foregoes a situation of conflict by removing a test case. Defense facts picks are good, narrowing the focus of the debate to less than the plan's treaty reduction is key. One, clash that generates nuanced analysis of the core controversy of bottom lines, commitments, research that forces a comprehensive defense of the actual defense fact and article reduction. The alternative is lazy research and the fact that we never actually engage in plan text writing and why it's important for assurance and deterrence links on the defense pact topic, holistic advocacy, and it's infinitely regressive because all advantage counterplans are picks under their interpretation. None of them reduce the defense fact, which means they could read specifically any sort of intrinsic perm to the all this and proves that conditionality justifies the AF choice, specifically new AF choice makes our pick predictable. You could have specifically cut an AF that had an Article 5 key warrant like withdrawal, weapon types, and most to your goal fast, but you didn't. Now the flex bad stuff. Congress is not worse. One, the counterplan does not solve adventurers in the Euro evidence in 2006, and the only warrant is that the president needs more accountability and answers to national. Two, our evidence is not theoretical. We have specific Fisher and intrinsic net benefit. Only our evidence assumes the current political parties. McConnell evidence is silly. They're not going to reinforce Biden, and the Democratic majority obviously still pushes back. There's no dissonance between the two. Speed and Sting evidence don't apply. Sting is a professor of politics in the UK with no business talking about Congress and has no understanding of these institutions. It's about parochialism that doesn't say that at least a crisis or any sort of impact. You dropped a huge impact into this, which is that group thing causes war with Russia over Ukraine. That outweighs the U.S. and Russia have the most amounts of nuclear weapons, and Ukraine is the most likely point of conflict. Group think will occur with Ukraine because there's no debate about widespread anti-Russian sentiment in the foreign policy issues. That's a Perry and Fauschman insights several studies. Counterplan solves it because it reduces poor decision making and info gathering. Now the uniqueness arguments on you, they didn't extend it. Now the solvency deficit, specifically about Article 5, is the only thing I have to beat because the case doesn't matter. The counterplan solves, and the disat turns us. Only we have in that Congress specifically is key to clarifying that armed attack threshold will be the same as the plan in the context of Congress. They will not enter force into hostility. Their best card for this on the advantages. One, I see there one. This card just says that we need to clarify it. It doesn't specify Article 5. Just says that we need to have low level imposition because deterrence could be undermined. All the other evidence is in the solvency section, and it is not tied to their internal link. The Lewis card is about why they need to use Article 4 instead. It's not a solvency or internal link card for Article 5. The Jordan card, which says deliberations on threshold for Article 5, are thorny. The counterplan directly states that we will be involved in that deliberation and have Congress introduce forces, which means I do not have to win any of the other stuff. Kick the deterrence counterplan, concede the perm. Article 5 stuff obviously doesn't apply to the counterplan we extended.
2 minutes. Sorry, I stopped prep at a minute left. I'm trying to talk to Zadao about something, and he has disappeared.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
we should start running tech time, and I will figure out how to put in a help ticket, I guess, to do that. So can somebody start? I'll start a timer.
Okay, sorry, how does tech time work?
I feel like each side gets 10 minutes, and it's just like prep on top. It might be 15 at the NDT. I don't know. I need to check, but I'm gonna set a timer for 10 and hope that we don't go past that.
Okay. I mean, like, if we hit 10 minutes and he's still struggling, I can just like continue
You
prep.
can,
Give
you
the
can
2
use
hours.
our minutes if that's allowed, but I don't know if it is.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
are
I guess
rules
I'll
anymore? Okay, says the ADA president. I will go figure out how to do a help ticket.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about this. Okay. I can hear Zidane now. He's back. Victory. Yeah. We'll restart prep time. Okay, that's prep time. Okay. I'm so sorry about this whole mess. It's just the counter plan. Cool. Yeah, is everyone good with that? Sick. This counterplan solves no part of the graph, which means a massive risk of a literally conceded affirmative outweighs a decent risk of the counterplan. First, it doesn't solve any of the second advantage. Reinterpreting arms attack and therefore limiting our Article 5 commitment to NATO is obviously key to every part of this advantage. Our argument here is that the U.S.'s interpretation of armed attack in cyber context is too expansive, such that it allows the U.S. to respond aggressively to literally any type of attack. That's bad because it means the U.S. is legally allowed to engage in armed reprisal versus low-level uses of force, i.e. China could land a fishing boat in the Senkakus and we could just like fucking throw a nuke at them because of our interpretation of armed attack, which is super escalatory in every context. The counterplan does not change how we interpret armed attack. It only changes how we respond, and it only does so in the context of NATO cyber, which means that the US's overly expansive definition is still in the books and still escalatory. Yeah, the plan text is only about NATO cyber, but they dropped the Vindman card, says that reinterpreting armed attack narrowly reinterpreting armed attack narrowly spills over to other contexts and means that the affirmative results in a broader shift in our interpretation in armed attack, such that the affirmative limits our interpretation, which solves our impacts, and the counterplan cannot solve for because it doesn't change Article 5. Now, the impact of that is twofold. A, it structurally increases the propensity for conflict escalation. That's when I see blank. It says that the low threshold of armed attack makes every country more likely to engage in armed attacks, which makes global conflict more likely. The blank card is absolutely fantastic. It says that cyber attacks can constitute an armed attack if sufficiently grave, but setting a threshold too low destabilizes the international order and causes an unstoppable cycle of force and counterforce. Only the exclusion of small incidents from the definition of armed attack protects against escalation of smaller incidents into full-scale conflagrations. Those smaller incidents are happening now per the Rondo evidence that was read in the 1AC, which means that the U.S. could theoretically respond to nukes with any Russian cyber attack. The risk of an accident increases every time, which means that there is a massive risk that the affirmative outweighs. Now, the second impact to that sovereignty deficit is preemption, which they haven't answered at all. Our argument here is that the U.S.'s broad interpretation of armed attack justifies a revival of the reprisal doctrine, which means that countries are allowed to preemptively engage with nuclear force against any other country. It spills over to kinetic context per the conceded Heinze evidence, and the Kelly evidence says that the revival of the reprisal doctrine and the American interpretation of armed attack in Article 51 that broadens permissiveness of armed attack causes proliferation and preemption because pre-1945 rules of engagement are such that states can attack with nukes to any other state, and means that use of force massively increases and also causes countries to proliferate, which they haven't answered, and is an impact external to the counterplan that massively outweighs and is a reason to default after. Kelly card says that a low threshold for armed attack allows a revival of the preemption doctrine globally, which controls the impact on a broader scale, because the whole top of the 2NR is about why the U.S. preempting other countries is bad. The AF solves preemption by narrowing our definition of armed attack, which means that we control the impact to the counterplan, but we also access a broader preemption impact that they haven't answered. Now, I'm going to answer the 2NR impacts proper. The preemption stuff was answered above. We control preemption on a broader scale, but the 2AC iceberg card also says that congressional control over foreign policy makes preemption by other countries on the U.S. more likely, which makes the impact still happen. The reason for this is that Congress is slower, which means that the
executive can't engage with the necessary speed, Congress can't engage with the necessary speed to deter other countries from acting. The next impact, the authoritarianism stuff. How do they solve this? They conceded that they don't have an explanation of how the counterplan results in this, and the 2NR hasn't drawn that line. The next argument, the groupthink, or even Congress is definitely worse for groupthink. The Singh card, it's excellent. He's totally qualified, and they can't say he's not qualified when their groupthink authors are a JD candidate and an investigative journalist. But the Singh card says that McConnell and Pelosi are always bickering over polarization, which makes them less likely to cooperate and engage engage in a use of military force when it's necessary. But importantly, they also have less knowledge over foreign policy affairs, which means that the U.S. would make dumb foreign policy decisions all the time because they have no idea what to do. But even if you think that's not true, the blank stuff outweighs because it structurally controls the propensity for war. It would be unlikely to escalate in the world of the plan because we narrow the U.S.'s definition of armed attack. But the groupthink stuff, they also don't really have an impact card to it because the second card that they read in the 2NC also only says that we're invading Ukraine now because of groupthink, or it says that what's happening in Ukraine now is happening because of groupthink, but it doesn't say that that would escalate to a war with Russia, and it doesn't articulate how the counterplan solves it, which is a reason that the F outweighs. The solvency deficit also applies to the first advantage. In particular, I'm going to go for the active defense stuff. The McGee card says that the US's interpretation of armed attack in the cyber context is why policymakers don't engage in active defense and offensive cyber operations in the status quo. It muddies the waters and makes policymakers afraid to engage because they don't know how the rules work due to a cloudy definition, which the F solves by narrowing our definition of armed attack. Now, that's key to solve Russian information warfare. The Johnson card says that telling Russia we would attack them is the only way to prevent them from engaging information warfare, which is an existential risk that controls every impact in the 2NR and outweighs it. The 1AC impact card here is fantastic. It says that it says that information warfare structurally controls crisis and is an impact magnifier. It says that if the Cuban Missile Crisis were to happen today because of misinformation, people would have overreacted, and there would have been misunderstanding due to the fact that countries can deliberately misrepresent things through information warfare, which makes all manners of conflicts more likely and controls every level and controls every level of conflict escalation for the counterplan. The only answer here is that they changed the US's response. They answered the Iranian card, but they did not answer the solvency deficit to the second advantage. The solvency deficit for the second advantage, which is what the 1AR extended, and means that there's a huge risk of the F that the counterplan can't possibly solve. Good debate.
Good debate. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, sorry for internet issues. I think maybe my brother's playing like a video game downstairs or something. I'll go yell at him later, but yeah.
Good debate, and we sent out the neg doc.
Yeah, I'll put together an F card doc. The F card deck is set.
I'm here, by the way. I'm just turning camera off for internet issues.
Perfect. Hey, Dan. Oh yeah, there we go. There you are. Okay.
I think I was the last, and I'm happy to announce. Congratulations to both teams. This was really an excellent debate. The decision is a 3-0 for the negative for Emory. I'm happy to start as well. I think that I spent a lot of time, and I think I was the last one in, and I wanted to make sure I really understood the cards and looked over the flow a few times and everything. I think the problem for the AF is a lot of the 2AR is kind of like look at all of these like solvency deficits and offense. And I think I wanted a little bit more, instead of just like, here is the impact the counterplane does not solve, more comparative kind of impact calc for, you know, a solvency deficit or, you know, 2 solvency deficits that you're winning to the net benefit to the counterplane. Because I think the 2NR has a good amount of impact calculus. And I think it's important because there are a few kind of concessions in like cards that I think help the neg here, like the 1NC Sloan evidence, I think is like, I guess, surprisingly good in describing why like preventative wars are a result of the executive and why the executive has an important role in international law. And I talk about, or I thought about like kind of these solvency deficits as well as the net benefit arguments. And I had a problem with the AF basically figuring out like why war would occur, like how did these like structural conflicts or preemptive wars or like information warfare, how do they break out, right? Like both teams have these sort of amorphous wars. And I think the negative's a little bit more specific with Syria coming. And I think that's important because like, I think if the AF had been like, look, we have all of these things, like other countries besides the US starts these wars and then really impacts that out, that helps me, but that's not really described in the 2AR. And that's important because these like Congress bad arguments, like I think the best one is this like speed one, but like, unless you just, you know, explain speed in terms of some sort of deterrence argument, I didn't understand exactly what the impact of that was, especially when you have all of these kind of preemptive, like LOAC-esque arguments in the 1AC. And so that's why that impact calc is really important for me. So I think if you just focused on maybe the kind of structural conflict stuff and the preemption solvency deficit and like the miscal Congress argument, that would be better. Alternatively, you could go the other way and do the like executive is key to speed and the like OAOs, OCOs, not OAOs, like OCOs deterrents. Be like only the executive can like make the quick decisions and like they need to like screw over Russia like as quickly as possible. But basically, yeah, in the end, I end up voting negative because I think they do kind of give me that better picture and do give me that impact calculus.
Happy to go next. I thought this was a great debate. It's definitely one that I was kind of dreading now that I'm older, rustier, worse at flowing. So forgive me if I missed something. But I very much agree with Ned. I think that, especially kind of on the frustration of sort of the amorphous nature of a lot of these impacts, I think that that was one thing that at times on the net benefit and very much so on the second advantage, I was a little bit not super excited about sort of the, you know, kind of generic nature of a lot of these, like who controls the best, like future escalation scenarios or what norm is best at controlling a very specific escalation scenario. And that's why I think the 2NR impact calculus was very, very good and where I end up kind of deciding most of this. I think that the question of the urgency of the net benefit with all the Biden stuff, that there is like a pressing moment to decide a question that will lock in trends that call into question whether or not I think the AF could just resolve norms in the future that would be durable enough. And I think that I am clearer on why the net benefit would turn the AF than I am for why the plan would necessarily end all types of escalation made likely by an emboldened executive or authoritarians globally, that kind of stuff. So I think on the counterplan solvency and stuff, I kind of feel you. I think the AF kind of fights the good fight here. I think that the solvency debate was just a little bit tough for me to parse through because of probably the vague nature of the second advantage. I think that you're reading very specific internal link claims that are sort of racing to a very unclear future hypothetical war that does not sort of match the specificity of all those claims you're going for why the counterplan doesn't solve and makes it a little bit difficult to go all in sort of on the strategy that you did in the 2AR. So I think that, the counter plan probably solves enough, but I do think that, like the net benefit is pretty clearly outweighing most of the app. I do think that for the Congress Wars stuff, maybe more 1AR time spent on the Congress turns if y'all are pretty confident that the evidence is better, you have some spin that you can control, and less time on like the perm would maybe make this a little bit easier to vote on. I didn't really think that the perm was going to end up being something I would want to vote on. I don't know, but I think that maybe if you do want to extend the Congress stuff, more likely than the perm and the 2AR, maybe just cut that out and spend more time there. Because I do think that, it begs the question of like an unchecked executive compared to like, does Congress take over every facet of those things in terms of the speed and flexibility links, that kind of stuff. But, just in general, I think there would just need to be a little bit more time spent in the 1AR to set up a 2AR, making that a more convincing piece of offense for me to vote on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, and in fact, strongly agree with all of that. I definitely agree with Dan also that I think maybe just like a slight shift in what the 1AR coverage looks like might make a real difference. So maybe going forward, think about kind of picking a strat a little earlier. Questions, or it's been a long day.
Yeah, sorry it took so long.
I took almost as long as you did, Nat. I was in like maybe a minute before you, so reading cards is hard when you get old.
Oh, I will say, I thought there was going to be a condo pump fake just because. Why not? Make it seem like you might want to go for it, even if you believe in the new apps justify as many counterplans as you want. Condo was almost like non-existent in the 2AC, just, sort of, it's worth it.
What a condo panel this would have been, too. Like, if there are 3 people in the pool all together on one panel that might have voted for it, who can say? But, just a thought.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Great debate. Good luck going forward. It was a privilege to judge.
Good debate. Thanks for judging.
Good debate, Emory. Thanks.